This is my first time of having attended the Richard von Weizsäcker Forum of the Robert Bosch Academy. And it was very much an eye-opener and an extremely interesting learning experience. I mentioned when we were having our discussions that I hadn't been seated among such a diverse group of people, but especially with so many intellectuals from the Western world who were speaking as freely and as frankly as they did in this forum. And I think that is something that has immense value, because very often, especially when we have these big government meetings that involve more or less diplomatic exchanges, the language is always very careful. It's always very politically correct. It's always very sanitized. And sometimes things that are being said fall through the cracks because you don't quite register that that is the import of the message that is being put across to you. What becomes clearer and clearer is that, and it's almost a cliche to say it, we are living in a much more connected world. And the world is changing rapidly. But the fact of the matter is that because we are not having an effective dialogue and we don't understand the differences that each different area has to deal with, different geographical entity, different nation, different, I would even say, different gender has to deal with, very often we are talking above each other's heads instead of talking to each other. A lot of people don't realize that part of Africa's migration is related to climate change. Because to the extent that you have less rain or irregular rainfall patterns, and we still have agriculture that is predominantly rain-fed agriculture, and the Sahara is getting closer and closer to the coastline, what's happening is that people's livelihoods are basically non-existent anymore. Now, you've either got to have, as a government, to be able to provide alternatives, or young people are going to vote with their feet. And the discussion on climate change here in this particular forum, and I think sometimes within other discussions, the urgency is not reflected. That it's not just about what you do with climate change in your environment. It's about the implication it has for the rest of the world. I'm mentioning this particularly because I think it's one of the best examples of showing how having a forum of fellows like the Robert Bosch Fellows, coming from such diverse backgrounds and helping to understand each other's challenges within these big global topics, helps us to go and develop better policy solutions and programs and projects and initiatives that help us to overcome those challenges and deal with our mutual problems.